our first presentation of the morning. And I'd like to invite to the stage, please do come up, Uli Grabenwarter, Deputy Director for Equity Investments, EIF, Priscilla Schnepper, Investment Manager, Private Debt, EIF, and Cindy Daniel, Head of Unity, Life Sciences and Healthcare Equity Investments, EIF. Welcome to you all. I think we're just going to start with oh, there we are. Please do take your seats, but we are going to start with a presentation on EIF diversity strategy and equity investments, followed by the new EIF due diligence approach. But first of all, Uli, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. And to Mario and Merete, thank you for the inspiring welcome we got. The only thing that I would have liked more to it was that the fire on the screen was real after the walk that we had to the venue to warm ourselves. But we got as close to perfection as we could. Actually, I should not be standing here talking to you today for two reasons. First of all, because there are brilliant people from EIF in the room that will be talking to you about the topic that is at the core of today, that have the more relevant agenda to the topic than I can bring to the table. And secondly, I shouldn't be talking to you because the time for talking is actually over. We had, last year we have been coming together, and I think when we parted, we all agreed that we are of the same opinion when it comes to the diagnosis of what needs to be addressed in our industry. And we agreed on what type of action ought to be taken. And you threw out the challenge to EIF to be leading the game for this action that needs to be taken. And now it is actually time to act. And when we talk about action, I think we're talking about more than the concept of counting and accounting for indicators that bring us forward in a more inclusive society, in the more inclusive industry in venture capital and private equity. And at EIF, we have taken up this challenge to move into the direction to go beyond the counting of milestones and indicators like Merete was mentioning that we had taken on with the InvestEU program and others. And to go beyond that and work actually on a cultural change and on a cultural shift that we need to achieve as a society as a whole, but in particular in the industry that we are working on. Now, why do we need this cultural change? It's a little bit odd to ask this question because it should be intuitive not to have to argue in favor of diversity in a society when we talk about 50% or more of the population. But as we all know, we are living in a very strange world, and finance is also a very strange industry. And sometimes things that are very intuitive in our industry also do need a logic. So I'm going to make an attempt to provide you with a logic why we are doing this at EIF to engage in this cultural shift that we want to achieve. And I'm going to start with something that is very attached to our industry. When we try to build investment portfolios, we actually seek to bring together assets that are as diverse as possible. Because intuitively we think that these assets that are diverse and that are brought together with very different characteristics and features deliver better returns. And there are tons of researches out there that give us evidence, indeed, that diversified portfolios deliver better risk-adjusted returns. Now, what we are seeking to do is to carry this concept of value through diversity just a level above, to bring it to the concept that assets that are selected and managed by people that come from diverse backgrounds will deliver better value. Now, we don't want to stop at the concept of selecting and managing assets. When we look at our portfolio at EIF, risks related to lack of diversity have materialized. They have materialized in legal litigation risks. They have materialized in team stability risks. They have materialized in reputational risks that we were taking on. And at EIF, when we were looking at all this spectrum on the horizon, we found out that we are doing due diligence on so many things, so many risks. And we were wondering how we could afford it to blend out the risk of lack of diversity. And this is a type of risk that we cannot address by asking for the token HR partner or investor relationship partner to be hired in an investment firm. This is something that is very strongly related to team culture, to chemistry, to team values. And we have decided to extend our due diligence to all those components that come into play in order to assess the risk in the investment selection process, in order to bring together a holistic view on how we are going to select investments. And when we are going about this, the credibility of action taken and the credibility of the intention of action to be taken is as valuable to us than mathematical indicators that may be in form easy to achieve, but in substance pretty meaningless. That is what we are going to share with you today, and Cindy and Priscilla are going to give you the full background of our thinking and the journey that we've taken over the last 12 months to come to a different approach to investment selection, or a more complete approach to investment selection that we are applying from now onwards, with the objective to create a change in our industry. Yes, we are going to remain sensitive to market realities. We are going to remain sensitive to what can be achieved in what time frame. But we are going to be serious in our ambition to create an industry that is respectful to diversity, that embraces diversity, and that lives diversity. Thank you.
Thank you, Uli. So first, I wanted to express my real happiness about being with you today in this forum. It's been the third time. I'm always very excited to be presenting to you what we've been doing, and together with my colleague Priscilla. First, if we look at what we've been doing during the last 3 years, so I'm going to echo Marriott on this. Maybe we can change slide. Oh, okay, so we'll do it. Okay. So, I've got it. Cool. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, if we look at what we've been doing for the last 3 years, it started with InvestEU on the gender criteria that we're all familiar with now, having implemented it for a number of years. That was really the first step of the journey. Then we started the Empowering Equity program, this annual event. We had the mentorship program that we started this year, and the Empowering Equity Academy, as Mariut mentioned, where we try to train and bring networking opportunities to women STEM students who are interested in joining the PE and VC industry. So all of these were visible actions that we have undertaken during the last years or months. But one that we worked on behind the scene was, that's not the latest version, but never mind, was the Empowering Equity, Diversity, Due Diligence step. So that's a very important element that we've been doing, working on it within the whole equity investment team, is to design an enhanced diversity due diligence. And that's really the focus of today. We're going to present to you what we've been doing, looking at this diversity due diligence that we're conducting.
Where do we stand right now? I mean, I think we're all convinced that something needs to be done, but maybe just to get some figures that have recently come out from a tech report, which states that only 5% of seed funding goes to women today. We have a lot to catch up. Then women teams have, or all women teams still have more problems in the fundraising than mixed teams. Just to keep this in mind, there have also been studies carried out about how teams can move from one fundraising round to the other. And also here it has been shown that all women teams are disadvantaged, and especially non-white women teams. So, and this brings us to our vision, which also Uli mentioned in his talk. So our ambition is to bring this ecosystem to a space where we have equal opportunities for all of us and an advancement based on merit. And this means reducing and removing barriers which are linked to prejudices. And this is a change that we have started to implement and that we are continue doing so through a concrete approach in our due diligence. And now Cindy is going to give you some more details on this.
So the first step to achieve this vision and what we would like to see where the market goes would be to put really gender diversity at the core of EIF and of EIF investment team culture. So that was really where we wanted to start. So in order to do that, what we did was first to train EIF equity investment professionals and EIF, of course, EIF staff as a whole, as a lot of initiatives have been done at EIF, but on our team to make sure that our professionals are really well, at the state of the art in terms of inclusion in the workspace, in terms of diversity, being conscious about diversity, being, not having any unconscious bias. So that was really what was core for us to make sure that in terms of culture, we were, at the front run of this culture, and that we were then, able to, when going on due diligence, challenge the fund managers on this point. And in order to do that, what we are going to do as well, that we've started implementing and will continue, is to work in gender diverse team. So when we go on due diligence, we do go there. So we go and meet our managers or our prospects, I would say, at due diligence space. So we go there in a team of 2, and we try to have mixed teams. So one male, one female colleague going to assess the proposal. And, as Mayut mentioned, in terms of governance, in terms of being able to assess diversity, having a diverse team doing the assessment is where we think we would be able to do it the best way, really. So that, if we see, for instance, a personal example, when I was a more junior investment professional, I went on a DD with a male senior colleague. I was asking questions, but the person we were doing due diligence on was not answering my question. It was me asking the question, but the answers were always directed to my male colleague. So that's, something that I would notice, but my male colleague might not notice it. So having, the possibility to have the different views really is something that we value, and that now with the team that at EIF, and I think Gisela and Elodie will present to you the number later, we're 48% female investment professional in the team, 52% male, so very gender balance. It's something that we can do. We can have the different profile to be able to do the due diligence exercise and really assess it on different with different perspectives. So that would be really where we plan to make sure that the culture that is now part of our team, and that we assess on the intermediary, is also cascade down on the whole ecosystem. So we really see that our action on the fund manager, private equity or VC manager is one step. We select teams that will share this culture, and with them sharing this culture, we do believe that the whole ecosystem will be changed, and that when this fund manager will select consultants, or when they will invest in funders, then they will always have this diversity culture in mind, and that it will be how we change the ecosystem. So as the slides are not correct, I'm just going to continue without... Is it? Yeah, that's the right one. Thank you. So next one. And it's a good one we've got on slide, because the first line is a very important one, and every word is important. So doing it by memory, I might not have conveyed the message as well. So our enhanced diversity due diligence, what are we really going to assess, and how are we going to do it? What we want to do is answer this question in pink. Is this a healthy and attractive place for women to work, which provides them, this woman, with equal opportunities for their professional development in this industry? And that's the core question, That's the question we want to get an answer to. And in order to have a view, have an answer, we will assess different elements. First one, obvious, team composition. So who are the person in the team? Where are they female? Are the female working on support functions? Are they on junior positions? What is really the team we are assessing? Is it male only? If it's male only, why is it male only? So that would be first step, team composition. Also, has there been leavers within the team? Is this leavers have been only female, or is it mixed? Or so that is something that now we will assess more thoroughly. We were already assessing this, but now we've started doing a more thorough analysis, taking reference. If there was a female employee having left, we will call her, we will take references. So that's something that we are going to do more systematically. Team culture, as I mentioned, very important in terms of respect, making sure that there's no unconscious bias, that, of course, no harassment of any way. This is core to what we want to do. Equal opportunities. Do we see that there's a glass ceiling? Have women been promoted? Have people of, any form of diversity being promoted? This is something that we will challenge the fund managers on to make sure that, we are sure that the picture in a few years will change. One important aspect that, as already mentioned, fair and equal economic package. When we go on DD, we do ask about the salaries, the bonus, the man co-ownership, the carried interest split. We already have all these elements in place, and we will not invest in a team where we see that there's a gap, and that there's a gap that cannot be explained apart from gender. That is something that we feel strongly about. It's something that, is factual. So it is very important for us to assess this and to make sure that such gap do not exist in the funds that in the managers that we back. Also, openness to back diverse entrepreneurs. It could be that, we are on due diligence on all-male teams who have tried to recruit female but did not manage for one reason. Fair, we can give the benefit of the doubt, but then we need to get comfort that there's openness to back diverse entrepreneurs, that, maybe you did not manage to hire women, but that in that case, please show us that you've backed some diverse entrepreneurs, because we all know about the infamous 2%, as one of you mentioned to me yesterday, and that, we need to see this change. And one way for us to feel comfortable is really to see that you've been backing diverse entrepreneurs, and we would ask for references from these diverse entrepreneurs. It can be diverse funders, it can be that you have recruited C-suite executives who are from diverse backgrounds, but we will challenge you on this. And last one, because we are EIF, we love processes and internal policies, we would ask you for your internal policies on, this diversity element.
So, and now we'll go a little bit more into the detail of what you think or what you can expect when we go on a due diligence as of now. So basically what Cindy just pointed out, these points will be taken together in what we will call a more quantitative analysis. We will have a bit more of criteria, for example, like if right now the InvestEU FEMA criteria are met, yes or no. Here it's a quantitative figure. Then we can look at, okay, what does the remuneration look like currently? It's partial. It has a quantitative element. It also has a qualitative element, as Cindy just mentioned. If there is a difference, can it be explained, yes or no? Then we will look at how is the recruitment process being carried out? Are there initiatives taken in order to recruit women into the company? Are they, for example, participation to events in order to attract female talent? So all these elements will be taken into account and will have like a more quantitative score. However, and what is very important here is the qualitative assessment. And we really want to emphasize on this because we're not just tick boxing here. We want to understand what is the culture, what is the mindset behind And this links very closely to what Cindy was explaining on the previous slide on all these soft factors where we can see how, for example, are women treated within the company? Is it a place to develop? Is it a place where, let's say, where women are encouraged to advance and develop? And like, for example, then also we can see to what extent the manager wants to move forward and also cascade this down to the underlying companies. Like, for example, we would like to reference here also the 2X challenge, which is something which can apply at the level of the portfolio company, of the fund manager, but then also to see if the manager is willing to integrate it at the level of the portfolio companies. And the 2X challenge is, I mean, there are women in this room that could probably talk about it better than I do, but it's just to mention the initiative. It looks at women in entrepreneurship, in leadership, in employment, then on the consumption level, and also on the then look through on the portfolio. And when we take all this together, we will have an assessment of how diversity is seen and how opportunities are seen at the level of a fund manager. And this will then impact the way we will carry out the investment. And here we need to see that whenever we identify red flags, this should be a discontinuation of the process, because we see this as a risk factor where we do not wish to invest our money on a long-term basis. I think now we can move on to the next slide. So what can be done concretely to promote gender diversity in community? And here it is the important point, we are working together. So it means we have initiatives with local or pan-European stakeholders. There are national institutions, there are pan-European institutions which we want to work with. Then with public investors, NPIs, discussing and developing best market practices around diversity. Then promote and publicize role models within the ecosystem, but then also in the funders community. Like, for example, is currently being done by the Empowering Equity Mentoring Program, for example, but also there are new initiatives which can be thought of going forward. Talent attraction. This one we have mentioned for the academy, and it's an important point to bring in talent into the female community and into this industry, into the ecosystem, because still until now, as we look at the figures, there is some sort of glass ceiling, and in order to overcome existing prejudices, we need to make sure there is an upcoming talent pool. Then ensure representations, so meaning that when we have publications, when we have images or other materials, that these materials reflect gender diversity and don't support indirect or prejudices that create an unconscious bias. And then finally also to align event strategy, so meaning to encourage a diverse participation to events and conferences. And last but not least, if we move on to the last slide, to be certain, this is something we can only do together. So let us shape and change the ecosystem together. And on our side, we will continue to report and work on it, and we'll keep you posted. Thank you.
So I think, are you going to present any more, or are we going to take questions now? Yeah, okay, lovely. So we'd love to hear from you, from your opinions about this strategy, and also some questions for our panel. So if you want a question, just put your hand up. We'll bring up, oh, well, and say your name.
So my question, colleagues, is that, can you tell us, when do you start, really?
Now. So the answer to this question is now, and Uli said, you said we did. So we have been working on the strategy, and as said, as of now, when you're in due diligence with the EIF, you will live this new assessment.
Question there in the middle, please. Could you get a microphone there? Thank you.
Maybe, yeah, I will do it and then I'll pass it on. When red flags are identified in a fund, will they be informed on the reasons why they're being declined or the investment process will not continue? And how do you see the mentoring helping those funds that applied and we decided not to pursue due to a gender misalignment, benefiting from it? So how can the mentor benefit them as well?
I can start. So on the red flag to be communicated, we do communicate the reasons for not processing further to the fund manager. So it's something that we take really seriously, that it's important for us, that it's part of our role to make sure that what are the reasons we do not go further are communicated, so that then the manager can mitigate these reasons for the next fund. So it is something that we see as part of our role, and it's true for these diversity red flags, but also for all other reasons that we do not proceed with an investment. On the role of the mentoring, that I think we would tackle more later today, but I think that the mentors would be able to help and assist, but still, if there's I would not really believe that you could be in a situation where you've got a red flag on diversity and be in the mentoring program. That for me would already be quite. I would not really foresee a situation where that can happen. But I don't know if colleagues, you would see this differently?
Not differently. I'd maybe just try to put one perspective to that question when it comes to red flags and the like. I think it is important to state that gender diversity as a focus in our due diligence process going forwards is not something which addresses something that is somewhere extraplanetary out there. It is something that is in the core of the assessment of the culture of an investment team. And when you have been looking at the few criteria that Cindy and Priscilla have been sharing in the presentation, the immediate obvious reaction of not so well-intended people to that process would be, how are you dealing with the subjectivity of these elements? Well, mind you, there are plenty of decisions that we take in a due diligence process of investment selection that are based on subjective criteria already now. If we have to take a view on key executives in a management team, and the likelihood of them being around in 5 or 10 years' time when our investment expires, we are taking a subjective judgment call on the chemistry in the team, on the motivations of the team, on the diverging mid-long-term interests of team members. Why can we not take something in the perspective of how gender diversity plays into the game in the assessment of an investment? And I think when you maybe to address the question on how does the mentoring program interact with that, and can the red flags be cured, and can you maybe have a few badges that cover what has been identified as being no-goes? I think we are open to all dimensions of development and involvement of management teams that we invest in at whatever stage of iterations that we have with the management team. But there's one fundamental concept that is behind our investment decision, which means that we need to believe in it. It is not like doing the kind of AML test that you're doing with the supervisory organization of financial markets in your respective country, when you actually fall below the 80%, you redo the test and you remember the questions and then you cross the right boxes and at a certain point in time you're going to make it. That's not the intention. It is about the credibility of the conviction of the culture that is lived in a team that matters and not the ticking of the boxes.
I was quite interested in the red flag idea. So the red flags have been raised and the people don't seem to comply with your due diligence. But perhaps could you be convinced by their intention to change, or do they actually have had to have recruited the right people in order to qualify?
I think that's an important point you raised, because a red flag doesn't mean you fail to recruit a person. It's really a question of mindset and culture. Like, for example, if we have a male-only team that tells us we've been trying for years to get female talent on board, we've been participating to events, we are publicizing on the website, we have recruited juniors, we're giving them opportunities to progress internally. For me, or for us, as we discussed also in the working group, this would not be a red flag because they're making an effort. If on the other hand, and here I'm stigmatizing, just to mention an example, if we have a team which is only male, where the only female is maybe a secretary, and we see somehow incidents which almost look like harassment, I think the assessment would look differently. I think this is where we're aiming at.
Thank you. Right, well, there was someone waiting with a microphone there. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. In the meanwhile, I got it. I think you're making an extremely important step, which is about culture. But you also know that in culture, you need to have at least 25% people thinking really differently. And when we are in finance, I'm originally a banker, structured finance, director, investor relations. When you're in finance, you want to minimize the risks. The cultural shift that we might need in Europe is actually to be willing to take more risks and to become more entrepreneurial. And when you want to do that, it doesn't matter if you add women to it. It's actually, because if you add more women from the financial industry or more women that have been in the industry already, you're not going to make that shift. So the diversity in the teams might also be actually get people in that are entrepreneurial. Now the difficulty is entrepreneurial people you normally find in enterprises, and they're not very good in finance and they find it very boring and they just want to go. Right? So if we want to make that shift, it's also about maybe looking at a different way of what skill set would you need in not the one of today, but in the investment management of tomorrow. And there I want to add one thing, just using myself, and it feels really vulnerable to do this, but one of the problems is in Europe, and especially if you're from the Netherlands, you should not be too daring. Act normal, you're already acting strangely enough. That's a Dutch saying, it says it all. If you put your head above the grass, it will be cut off, and high trees catch a lot of wind. Right? So those are the three cultural things I'm fighting with. And then if it's too American, we think it's, they're salespeople. So how do we deal with this? So if on the one hand you want to be bold, then everybody thinks, oh, they're risk takers. So how do we create a mental shift that actually is intense, how do we say? It's actually giving inspirational people also the power to move. And how do you see that in your cultural fit? So if we don't think about risk, but we actually also think about reward, how could we use that as well?
Big question. How do we do such a big cultural shift?
Maybe I'll take that one. I think you're making a very, very important point. And actually, I will do some forensic statement on the venture capital industry in Europe to start my reply to you. Because if you compare the turning point of the venture capital industry in Europe when venture capital moved from the status of a charity to an asset class. That was roughly in the year 2005, 2006, when we had the first entrepreneurs moving into venture capital to become investors, rather than GPs that we had at the time that were managing downside risk in order to not to disappoint institutional investors by losing money. We all know that we are in an industry where the return is driven by the asymmetry of returns, that you can lose a maximum of 100% of your investment. That's bad enough, agreed. But the industry lives from the fact that you can actually earn a multiple of the 100% that you've invested, and that pays for all the losses and makes the returns. So this is a mindset shift that has actually taken it quite some time, and probably until 2012-15, until it has really sunk in Europe as an investment approach. Into the United States, that has been probably around for much longer. And I can't agree more with you that in order to make this cultural change that carries our entire industry, we need more than just looking at diversity and just looking at the financial component, and we need to bring people with different backgrounds into the industry and the like. You will probably not be surprised that I'm telling you that this is something that cannot be kind of ordered by a regulation or an instruction. It is something that needs to grow in the mindset of people, and it's probably something that happens because of the inspiration of people that bring around. But I do agree with you that we need to diversify the kind of perspectives and mindsets that are working in our industry away from consultants and finance and credits and auditors and things like that. And as a matter of fact, at EIF, we have started to walk the talk also on that front, because we have taken this year in the Empowering Equity Academy a bunch of students with a STEM background, and have actually exposed them through our academy to the different dimensions of what venture capital and private equity means, and how that can relate to the backgrounds that they are trained in, with the hope that we inspire them that there is a world beyond mathematical formulas and engineering and things like that, and where they actually can make this knowledge work for the benefit of society beyond the kind of immediate verticals that they're looking at. And I can't make the judgment call how successful we were in this, because it's not something but the jury is out. But we are hopeful that we started a movement.
Thank you. Now, oh my goodness, what a lot of questions. So, right, well, I'm going to go to the question here at the front with Merete, and then lady at the front there. So Merete first, then there, and then, oh well, someone's going to bring them. Merete, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Jumping off what you were just saying, Uli, do you believe that what the EIF is doing now and these new elements that you're putting into your due diligence, that could eventually become a market standard? Have you spoken to other funds about this? And if yes, what were their reactions? Do they say, this sounds like a great idea, we're going to adopt that immediately? Or are they saying, okay, let's see how the EIF does this, and then maybe we will then take inspiration depending on the results?
Well, Merete, you will agree that there needs to be one benefit to come to the Empowering Equity event, which is that this is the first official announcement of what we're doing. Leaving aside the leakage that there was from people in our organization, but more seriously to the expectation of the impact that we anticipate. I think when it comes to what matters in the investment selection process, there are plenty of stuff that EIF is doing that fund managers are not very fond about, because it comes with very thorough due diligences on compliance and legal risks on tax structures and things like that. And we know that sometimes we are a pain in the butt when it comes to to this type of kind of scrutinies that we are undertaking and the thoroughness that we have. But at the end of the day, I think the industry has always recognized that whatever we are embarking on and whatever we are taking on board as a perspective in the selection process is a precursor of what's going to happen in the industry. And those that have been adopting to it the fastest have also been taking a lead in the game. And we definitely hope that this will be the case in this topic.
Right, now I know there are so many questions, so I'm actually going to take 2 or 3 at the same time, and then I'll get the panel to choose which ones they want to answer. Lady in the front, then there's someone else with a microphone already, I think. So lady in the front, and then the next person with the microphone.
Olja Klupel, Global Growth Capital. A quick question. You've highlighted that you're working with other institutions to increase diversity, or in particular other investors. We, of course, as fund managers, preach that we need to change this diversity. And you, Uli, have spoken very eloquently how little or minuscule amount of capital from institutional investors is going into venture capital and private equity in Europe. But are you thinking of specific measures to actually introduce investors to this capable audience of women so that they actually see it and don't take this conservative approach of, oh, tech is risky, or just change their mind by being a leader in this?
Okay, so hold that thought there for a minute about specific measures to introduce investors. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm delighted that you're going to do this. But my question is, you talk about impact. Do you actually have a theory of change underlying this initiative?
Okay, and one more question. Just take that lady with the white jacket over there, please. Thank you, and then we'll get some answers.
I'm Valerie from the Vienna venture capital firm, so at GP. Uli, you said that you have experience in your portfolio, gender diversity risk. Could you give some example and how you assess that the risk you've experienced as an LP is linked to the lack of gender diversity?
Okay, so we had the first one about specific measures, and then, yep, who's going to take that? Then there's one about the impact and the theory of change, and then specific examples of gender diversity risk. Over to you.
Maybe on this one to begin with, it would be nice if we could put the slide on the vision, because this should address a part of where we're aiming at, meaning to create equal opportunities, but on a merit-based. So this means to create an environment where we will nudge the community into a direction, and then they aim to follow us. I don't know, Uli, maybe you want to complement.
Yeah, I'll take the question maybe in the order. You said, how do we basically spread the word and actually make it followed by action by others? I think typically in our investment selection process, we are considered as being a catalyst for other investors to engage in it, and we are as we move forward with this approach of our due diligence and our selection process. Yes, we are going to also interact with all our mandate providers that actually equip us with the capital we invest to explain ourselves on why we are doing this and what we expect as a return in terms of value creation for it that goes beyond the financial value creation. And that's something that we are going to share in more type of events than just today, and in particular in events where the audience is more diversified than we have it here. To put it the other way around. Our theory of change is, as Priscilla said, very much in the cultural shift that we want to achieve. The indicators that we have in terms of figures of what's the kind of representation of female partners in the firm, whether it's 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, 60%, those are indicators that are giving us proxies of what happens in the industry. But the reality is that what we really are after is to invest going forward in teams that we believe become ambassadors for the cultural change that we want to achieve, where we see that in the dynamics that we observe in a team, these teams have understood that this is an undeniable component of the construction of our society and are ready to engage in contributing to it. And I think the third question was about what experience we have made. With your allowance, I will not mention names of what happens for pretty obvious reasons, I guess. But I think what we have seen materializing is indeed threats of litigation cases that have been brought from within the team and outside the team of management teams that we've been investing in. We have seen situations of stability in core teams being threatened by the questioning of a joint value base within key individuals, and that is something which obviously in the first instance translates into turmoil in the management firm as such, but it also has a knock-on effect to the risk situation of the portfolios that we invested in, because that can trigger key executive events, that can trigger disintegration of teams, that can trigger kind of orphan portfolios that we need to manage. And independently of this diversity topic, I can tell you that if in my investment team I've got one, what we call a workout case, meaning something that we need to restructure, that actually takes a full-time equivalent in terms of investment capacity out of my investment team for several months, in some cases of years, and that's something that we don't want to afford.
Right. Yes, there's a question there, gentlemen. And someone with the microphone already. Sorry, I'm being blinded by the lights. Go ahead, and then we'll take the next one. Thank you.
Now, referring to the movement, are you seeing also movement among the LPs? So basically, it's building a bit on Mariette's point. And what methodologies have they? Because some LPs have already looked into this. I remember that from a meeting that the European Commission in 2020 organized, and I think Uli, you were also on that virtual call at the time, where the LPs were presenting their strategy in investing in diverse teams. So I'm trying to understand, who have you identified LPs who would kind of join that movement with you?
Yeah. And thank you for the question. It's a very important point, and I think I don't know who mentioned it before, that really the idea is for EIF to be the front runner and, for example, speak at conferences, speak at events, be, let's say, the role model in the market. Do we see other LPs following? What we do see, for example, there are associations of LPs and sometimes also GPs or other providers that want to put women together in order to create this network also of referral and community in order to move forward. Then when we talk to, let's say in our investment approach, we more work in the way of being a role model LP in order to nudge the market. At the same time, we also interact with LPs as far as we can, and also encourage them to move into the same direction. I don't know if the colleagues have concrete examples in mind, but I think for me it would be more of a general point that we show the direction.
Sorry, can I jump in on this one? Hi, and just to say, so from the EIF side, we already have, so InvestEU with the Commission has pushed us in the direction of looking at this topic. InvestNL and KfW, who are our partners, mandators, also have criteria around diversity and are looking into that. KfW has launched its emerging manager facility, which doesn't say that it's for diversity purposes, but it actually is. So there needs to be at least one woman partner in the management team. That's very important to them. BPI France in France has a mandate around that. IFO is also looking at this very seriously in Denmark. So I think
it's starting off with the public LPs all over, and we are also trickling these down alongside us. But I think it's really just starting with the public, and the private should really tag along in the next few years. Just wanted to compliment.
No, thank you, Elodie. I think that was a very, very important compliment. That I would maybe push it even one notch further, which is that the event that you referred to and also discussions that have taken place thereafter looks also at LPs that have engaged with the concept and the dimension of diversity in a much broader remit than just gender focused. And we had, I think it was 2 years ago in one of our venture capital conference, Ugly Duck, we had a fund manager even presenting on stage that was looking at diversity also with respect to ethnicities and alike, and demonstrating that this is something that is not kind of a non-material or non-tangible type of value creation, but this is something that actually translates also in economic value. My personal perception from today's perspective is that I think we do have players that are waking up to this. We have got LPs that make it a very prominent cause in their investment selection process. But we also need to be realistic. We are not talking about the majority of the investment space being reasoning in that way, because I think if that were the case, we wouldn't be sitting here today discussing it.
Thank you. We take the question over there.
Hi, thank you, Fabrice Oyo from the Blueprint VC. I saw that we have a lot of insights regarding the qualitative due diligence, but actually I would like to have a bit more information regarding the quantitative side of the due diligence, because I'm pretty sure that here we are almost all quite aware about the qualitative side, but also quantitative side is super important, and I just would like to have your insight regarding that.
Yes, so we will go. Does it work?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we will go for a scoring mechanism based on questions that we will ask ourselves on different topics, assigning points to the question. So, in fact, in terms of quantitative, is really about a core set of questions, strong KPIs, in fact, that we assign points to. That's for next year.
Right, I think, has anyone got a microphone already? Yes? One more question, probably.
Yes, Sara D'Agostini, European Commission. I have a question. Is this due diligence approach only related to InvestEU program, or is it enlarged to all your equity instrument in under EIF with other public funds?
At EIF, we don't discriminate, so it's for everybody.
Good answer. Right, we do have time for another question then. Yes, someone's got their hand up at the back.
I have a loud voice. I can do without a mic.
Oh no, I think you should have a mic.
Hello. To offer, first of all, an encouraging piece of news. Even the UK and even after Brexit got a cue from the EIF and recently launched a fund of 250 million specifically to ask for GP-led female GP to manage it and invest in female entrepreneurs. So the world is changing slowly but steadily. And now to the question, how are you working with other EIF programs that support managers? Are you additive? Are you complementary? Are you doing joint DD? Or you are working on a different stream?
I think not. I mean, what we the message we are passing is this is what we do within the EIF. Sorry, yeah, across the board, like for the investments EIF carries out. So it's not a different stream. It's really integral of our activity.
Right, well, I'm not going to take any more questions because it is 11:15, so that is the end of this session. And as the moderator, I have to be very strict about time, even though I'm thoroughly enjoying this session. From me, I just sort of really feel that it's really admirable and ambitious to include gender diversity in your due diligence, which is usually about other things, more financial instruments, and that you want to be bold and have this major cultural shift. And so, gender diversity will be an integral part of your due diligence assessment. And I really like the way that Uli started it to explain it to everyone that you can carry the concept of diversifying your funds, but make the fund managers more diverse and let it spread out. So yeah, good luck to you. And I'm looking forward to seeing more about this, and perhaps next year having practical examples. Thank you so much to our team for explaining, and please do take your seats.